We need courage. Did you hear what somebody just said there? That's what we need. That's why I came here today. We need courage.
President Obama in Ohio yesterday, of course, his message was intended for members up on Capitol Hill more so than his audience there in Ohio.
Yeah, our fact checkers were on the case. When he said courage, he meant votes. Top line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday, we're putting words in the president's mouth. We're here bringing you reporting, political insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
Incorrect. We are interpreting the president's words for our smart audience, and you can follow along, twitter.com/note if you have a better response for what President Obama meant when he said courage.
That's a fun Mad Libs game. Get us started. What's your top line?
Deemed appropriate. It is about process once again in the healthcare debate. Right now, the latest House strategy would be to not have a straight up or down vote, instead to deem via the rule. If you thought reconciliation was complicated, good luck on this one. Although on the scale of procedural maneuvering, reconciliation, I think it strikes more people as a more dramatic step than what they're talking about now. You still do need a majority vote, David, but we have seen process questions dominate the healthcare debate throughout. Republicans think they're onto a pretty powerful issue once again.
Well, you remember David Dreyer said process is substance, right? And it is to a degree, in the sense that this stuff we know is resonating with the American public. It makes them, again, angry about how things are done in Washington, and Republicans are screaming bloody murder on this. But I just don't get this. There is going to be an up or down vote on health care. Every Democrat is going to be on the record, and if they vote for it, whether it's a rule or the actual vote, they'll get beat up or praised depending on the politics at home. So I just don't understand how this avoids that for Democrats. It doesn't make much sense to me. One-on-one. That is the other health care headline, because that's how, if Democrats get it done, that's how they're going to get it done. We learned from the Associated Press that a couple of those undecided previous no votes on health care that the White House and Pelosi are trying to flip met individually with President Obama, not on his public schedule, Suzanne Cosmas in Florida, Jason Altmaier of Pennsylvania. These meetings, no doubt, are old style, old school, Oval Office arm twisting.
That's right. And I think conventional wisdom around this is that you get close enough and the president can bring you over the finish line. He can't move a block of votes, but individually, a freshman or a sophomore member of Congress is told, this is my presidency on the line. That's a hard thing to say no to the president of the United States.
They get all googly-eyed when they walk into the Oval.
And they like to be the deciding votes. Watered down. Senator Chris Dodd has unveiled his financial regulatory reform proposal, and it is not along the lines of some of the major provisions that he had when he outlined his wish list in the fall. Some of the big things that we've talked about, the Volcker rule on trades that is sent off to study, the independent, outside of the current agency structure, Consumer Regulatory Agency would actually be put inside of the Federal Reserve. And all of this, David, is before there's any bipartisan buy-in. This is not including concessions to get Republicans to the table. You've got to think it gets watered down further, and we get further from the original goals.
Because signals are that Republicans do want to play here, and I think Democrats no doubt will want some of them on board. Republican response. That's what we're seeing now, with a growing chorus of Republicans coming out attacking the Obama administration for its response to Israel's settlement actions when Vice President Biden was over there. We have John McCain calling the Obama administration's response a mistake, Kenner calling it irresponsible, and our Martha Raddatz is now reporting that today Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is choosing to use a little bit more of a diplomatic tone. The Obama administration now toning it down, and Hillary Clinton reasserting the quote-unquote unshakable bond that U.S. has with Israel.
Yeah, you continue to see it. The week after this happened, the vice president caught off guard, the administration recalibrating itself around this. I think less a response to the criticism, to the fact that this is an ally, and that at bottom, you have to keep that in mind.
In a very dangerous region
kind
of
of
the
an
world.
important part of the world.
We're going to begin with the healthcare debate that is dominating our life here in Washington, and certainly that of the members up on Capitol Hill. We're joined by Republican Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota. Congresswoman, thank you for being here today. Let's begin with the sort of process that is dominating today, this idea of how the Democrats are going to get this bill passed if they have the votes, using this deem rule to deem the bill passed. And my question is, I know Republicans are up in arms about this today, but why does that matter? It's still going to be an up or down vote on health care.
Well, it's because the Constitution matters. And James Madison wrote in Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2, that a bill must be presented to the President of the United States for his signature, and the Journal must record that a member of Congress like myself, Michelle Bachmann, voted either yes or no. And so what this slaughter of the House rule is saying is that the rules say we'll debate for so many minutes and then the Republicans will offer so many amendments, But then the rule will say, we presume or we deem that the Senate bill is already passed. Well, think of the absurd logic. We're going to debate a bill that's already been passed. It can't be done. So what the Constitution says is you must actually vote on the bill. You can't vote on a rule. And what the Democrats are stepping into in this constitutional problem is the fact that Americans will have standing to sue. You'll see scores of lawsuits, and the American people will prevail, and this will be struck down as clearly unconstitutional. This isn't even a close one. That's why it's really a foolish move by the Democrats, because they can't win legally in court if they take this route.
What makes this different than the times that the same process was used under Republican leadership in previous Congresses?
Well, this has never been used before. There isn't one instance in the history of Congress where this slaughter the House rule has been used. Reconciliation is a different maneuver.
It's because of the reconciliation aspect of it? Because deeming things passed has happened before.
No, reconciliation has been used in the Senate. That's a Senate rule. This slaughter the House rule is a House procedure that's never been used before.
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought there was a deeming inside the rule, putting a bill inside the rule to deem it having passed. I thought that was used with welfare reform. Do you think welfare reform is unconstitutional now?
No, the deeming rule hasn't been used before.
So to be clear, would you as a member of Congress challenge this constitutionally as well? Or would you be looking to citizens to take up that charge?
There will be any number of groups taking this up, because this won't stand. It's so blatant on its face, unconstitutional, it doesn't have a chance for standing. And your viewers need to know there's a difference between the reconciliation process that's used in the Senate and this unprecedented slaughter the House rule that's being used in the House. It's the slaughter the House rule that I'm referring to. This will not be upheld by a court because it's patently unconstitutional.
Congresswoman, let me tap your knowledge of the members up there. I know you don't spend much time inside Democratic caucus rooms, but is your sense up there that this bill is going to pass?
No, not necessarily. I think what we saw is a great PR campaign last Sunday morning with Robert Gibbs, David Axelrod. They acted as though this was a fait accompli. Same with the Speaker of the House. It clearly isn't. It's a flip of the coin. I think no one knows which way it's going to go. Clearly, they don't have the votes today. The American people have won at every step of this process, and the polling data tells us 3 out of 4 Americans don't want this bill. And so now is the time when the Blue Dog Democrats can stand up and be heroes in this process and say no to this very bad bill and be heroes at the end of the day.
If it does get done, then it'll be in no small part to the leadership of Speaker Pelosi. What do you make of the way that it's been handled by her and by President Obama through this process?
Well, it's been very dispiriting, to say the least, because the backroom deals the American people have clearly rejected. We will never know what the backroom deals are prior to the bill, if it does actually go through, and I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion. We'll know in the appropriations bills to see how the Speaker bought her members off, and that is disgusting to the American people. But the worst part of all of this is that people are going to have dramatic increases in their health care premiums. That's really what people are worried about, is the cost of health care. This is going to make costs go through the roof even more so. So people's premiums will go up. Our taxes are going up. Right. $500 billion is coming out of Medicare. So senior citizens have the most to lose, because 30 million more people will go into this system with no more doctors. So people may have a, quote, right to health care, right, but what they'll really have is a right to go on a waiting list.
Congresswoman, Americans are getting their census forms. I got mine just last night. You made some headlines last year by talking about not filling out the entirety of it, boycotting certain portions of it. What do you plan to do with your census form? What do you recommend that other Americans do with regard to the census?
Well, the Constitution requires every 10 years we take attendance. That's a good thing. Nothing wrong with that. We plan to fill out in my house how many people that there are in our family and send our form back in. What I don't appreciate is that the census is turning into a justification to justify ever more big government programs. There's a short form census that is 10 questions long. But then there's a separate long-form census that's over 28 pages long. It asks questions like, what time do you leave your house in the morning? What time do you return at night? That's not government's business. I don't want them to know. And yet that form is also mandatory. I don't think Americans should be forced to give information that they're not comfortable with giving the government.
Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, Republican of Minnesota, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.